Gurabhyo Namah, Om Shri Ganeshaya Namah, Om Shri Hanumatai Namah, Om Shri Sita Ramāyana Namah. So we'll continue with the Ramayana reading from Sri Ramcharitmanas. This is reading number 22, and in this section we'll continue with the journey of Sri Ram when he leaves for exile for 14 years. So he left Ayodhya, and now he is on his way to the forest, and he goes through various places and meets several people. So we'll continue with this journey with Sri Ram. So the Lord of Raghu's race then bathed in the Ganga, and after worshipping a newly made clay image of Shiv, bowed his head on the deity. With joined palms, Sita addressed the celestial river Ganga, "Mother, pray accomplish my desire, that I may return with my husband and his younger brother and worship you." In response to Sita's prayer, steeped as it was in the nectar of love, the following happy utterance came from the holy stream. "Listen, O Vaidehi, beloved consort of Sri Ram, who in this world is not aware of your glory. People become masters of the heavens' quarters the moment you look at them, and all supernatural powers wait upon you with joined palms. By addressing an humble prayer to me, you have done me a favor and exalted me. Yet, O venerable lady, bless you I must, just in order to fulfill my speech. With your beloved Lord and his younger brother you shall safely return to Ayodhya. Every wish of your heart shall be accomplished, and your bright glory shall spread throughout the world." Sita rejoiced to hear these benedictory words of Goddess Ganga and to find her favorably disposed. Then the Lord said to Guha, "Go home." The moment he heard this, his face turned pale, and there was great agony in his heart. With joined palms, Guha addressed the Lord in pathetic terms, "Hear my prayer, O jewel of Raghu's race. Let me remain with you, my Lord, and show you the path. After serving you for a few days, I shall prepare a beautiful hut of leaves for you in whichever forest, O Lord of Raghus, you may go and take up your abode. Thereafter, I swear by you, O Chief of Raghus, to do as you bid me." Perceiving his natural love, Sri Ram took with him, and Guha felt much joy in his heart. Then Guha summoned all his kinsmen, and having gratified them, sent them away. Then the Lord invoked the gods Ganesh and Shiv, and bowing his head to the celestial stream Ganga, the Lord of Raghus proceeded to the woods with his friend Guha, his younger brother Lakshman, and Sita. That day he halted under a tree. Lakshman and his friend Guha provided for all his comforts. At dawn, the Lord of Raghus performed his morning duties, and then the Lord proceeded further and visited Prayag, the king of holy places. This king has truth for his minister, Shraddha for his beloved consort, and a beneficent friend like Bindu Madhav, the deity presiding over Prayag. His store is replete with the four prizes of human life, while the sacred region surrounding the confluence of the Ganga and the Yamuna marks his most beautiful dominion. The holy Prayag represents his inaccessible, strong, and lovely fortress that no enemy has ever dreamt of possessing. All the sacred spots are his chosen and valiant warriors who are staunch in battle and capable of crushing the host of sins. The confluence of the Ganga and Yamuna constitutes his exquisite throne, while the immortal banyan tree, known by the name of Akshayavat, represents his royal umbrella, which captivates the heart even of sages. The waves of the Ganga and Yamuna constitute his showers, whose very sight destroys sorrow and want. Virtuous and holy saints wait upon this king and attain all that they desire, while the Veds and Purans are the rhapsodists who recount his stainless virtues. Who can describe the glory of Prayag? A lion, as it were, for the herd of elephants in the shape of sins. The chief of Raghu's race, who is an ocean of bliss, was filled with delight to see this glorious king of holy places. With his own gracious lips he told Sita, Lakshman, and his friend Guha the greatness of Prayag, making obeisance to this holy place, he cast a look round the groves and gardens and expatiated on its glory with the utmost devotion. In this way he arrived at and saw the confluence of the Ganga and Yamuna, the very thought of which bestows all choice blessings. After bathing in the confluence, he gladly adored Lord Shiv and worshipped the deities presiding over the holy Prayag according to the prescribed ritual. The Lord then called on Bharadwaj, and the sage clasped him to his bosom, and as he fell prostrate before him, the joy that the sage felt within his heart cannot be described in words. It looked as if he had found the bliss of oneness with Brahma incarnate. The chief of sages, Bharadwaj, invoking his blessing on the Lord, he felt great joy in his heart to perceive that God had, as it were, set before him in visible form the reward of all his virtues. After inquiring of their welfare, the sage allotted seats to the royal guests, and offering homage to them, sated them all with his love. He then brought and presented to them bulbs, roots, fruits, and sprouts, all sweet as ambrosia. Sri Ram, with Sita, Lakshmana, and his devotee Guha, partook of those delicious roots and fruits with such relish. Relieved of his toil, Sri Ram felt much happy, and Bhardwaj addressed him in gentle tones. Today my penance, pilgrimage, and renunciation have been rewarded. Today my prayer, meditation, and dispassion have borne fruit. Nay, all my pious practices have been rewarded by your very sight, O Ram. There is no culmination of gain, no culmination of joy other than this. In beholding you, all my hopes have been realized. Now he pleased to grant me this one boon with spontaneous attachment to your lotus feet. Until a man gets sincerely devoted to you in thought, word, and deed, he cannot even dream of happiness in spite of all his devices. Sri Ram felt abashed to hear the words of the sage, much as he was sated with joy by his love and devotion. The chief of Raghus then told all in countless ways the fair and bright renown of the sage. Great indeed is he and the repository of all virtues, whom, O chief of sages, you are pleased to honor. The sage Bharadwaj and the hero of Raghu's line thus exchanged civilities and experienced ineffable joy. On receiving this news, the people of Prayag, including religious students, ascetics, hermits, accomplished saints, and recluses, all flocked to the hermitage of Bhardwaj in order to have a look at the charming sons of King Dashrath. Sri Ram made obeisance to them all, who were delighted to obtain the reward of their eyes. Deriving supreme joy, they gave their blessing and returned, extolling the beauty of the royal guests. Sri Ram reposed in the hermitage overnight. At daybreak, he bathed at Prayag in the confluence of the Ganga and Yamuna and proceeded on his journey with Sita, Lakshman, and his attendant Guha, gladly bowing his head to the sage. Sri Ram lovingly asked the sage, "Tell me, my lord, by which route we should go?" Smiling inwardly, the sage replied to Ram, "All paths are easy to you." The sage then called his pupils in order that they may escort Sri Ram. Hearing his call, some 50 of them came, glad of heart. They all cherished boundless love for Sri Ram, and each of them said he had seen the path. The sage then sent with the royal party 4 religious students who had practiced all kinds of virtues in a series of previous births. Making obeisance to the sage and receiving his permission, the Lord of Raghus proceeded with a cheerful heart. As the party passed by some village, men and women of the village ran to have a look at them. They felt gratified in having attained the fruit of their life and returned disconsolate, sending their heart after the strangers. With great courtesy, Sri Ram dismissed the students, who returned having obtained their heart's desire. The Lord then crossed the river Yamuna and bathed in its water that was as dark as his own body. Hearing of their arrival, the people inhabiting the river banks ran to see them, unmindful of their duties. Beholding the beauty of Lakshman, Ram, and Sita, they congratulated themselves on their good luck. Their hearts were seized with intense longing, but they felt shy in inquiring the names and residence of the newcomers. Some of them, however, as were advanced in years and intelligent, were able to identify Ram through same device. They related to them the whole story, telling them how Sri Ram had proceeded to the woods in obedience to his father's commands. They were all sad to hear this and lamented, "The king and queen have not done well." In the meantime, there arrived an ascetic who was an embodiment of spiritual glow, young in years and charming in appearance. His ways were unknown to the poet. He was attired in the garb of a recluse and was devoted to Ram in thought, word, and deed. His eyes were wet with tears, and a thrill ran through his body when he came to recognize his beloved deity Sri Ram. He fell prostrate on the ground, and the state of his body and mind could not be described in words. Thrilling all over with emotion, Sri Ram pressed him to his bosom. He was in such an ecstasy as though a pauper had found a philosopher's stone. Everyone who saw them suggested as though love on the one hand and the supreme reality on the other embraced each other in living form. Next he threw himself at the feet of Lakshman, who lifted him with a heart overflowing with love. Again he placed on his head the dust of Sita's feet, and the mother Sita gave him her blessing, knowing him to be her own child. The Nishad chief in his turn fell prostrate before the hermit, who gladly embraced him, recognizing him to be a friend of Sri Ram. With the cup of his eyes he drank the nectar of Sri Ram's beauty and was delighted as a hungry soul who had secured excellent food. "Tell me, friend, what are those father and mother like that have exiled to the woods children such as these?" Beholding the beauty of Sri Ram, Lakshman, and Sita, men and women alike were ill at ease on account of love. The hero of Raghu's race then admonished his friend Guha in ways more than one, and bowing to Sri Ram's commands, he left for his home. Then, with joined palms, Sita, Ram, and Lakshman made renewed obeisance to the Yamuna. Accompanied by Sita, the two brothers gladly proceeded further, extolling the daughter of the sun god as they went. Many a traveler met them on the way, and beholding the two brothers, they fondly exclaimed, "Finding all the marks of royalty on your person, we are sore troubled at heart. When you went your way on foot, the science of astrology, which tells us that men possessing such and such features should always be born on some vehicle, is misleading to our mind. The path is difficult and lies through big mountains and forests. On top of it, you have a delicate lady with you, infested with elephants and lions. The forest is too terrible to look at. We are ready to accompany you if you enjoin us to do so. We will escort you as far as you go and will then return, bowing our heads to you." In this way they offered their services, overmastered as they were by love. A thrill ran through their body and tears came to their eyes. The all-merciful Lord, however, dismissed them with polite and gentle words. The hamlets and villages that lay on the road were the envy of the towns of the Nags and gods. The deities presiding over these towns said to one another, "By what blessed soul and at what auspicious hour were these hamlets and villages founded? They are so lucky, meritorious, and of such exquisite beauty. Even Amravati, the city of immortals, stood no comparison with the spots which were trodden by Sri Ram's feet. The dwellers on the wayside were all embodiments of virtue. They evoked the praise of the denizens of heaven inasmuch as they feasted their eyes on Sri Ram, who was dark as a cloud, as well as on Sita and Lakshman. The lakes and streams in which Sri Ram bathed were the envy of the lakes and rivers of gods. The tree under which the Lord sat was glorified by the trees of paradise. Nay, kissing the dust of Sri Ram's lotus feet, earth deemed herself most lucky. Clouds screened him from the sun. The gods rained flowers and regarded him with wistful eyes as Sri Ram wended his way, looking at the mountains, forests, birds, and beasts. Whenever Sita, Lakshman, and the Lord of Raghus happened to pass by some village, all those who heard of his coming, young and old, men and women alike, came out at once, unmindful of their household duties. Beholding the beauty of Sri Ram, Lakshman, and Sita, they obtained the reward of their eyes and felt gratified. Their eyes were wet with tears, a thrill ran through their body, and they were all enraptured to behold the two brothers. The state of their mind could not be described in words. It seemed as if paupers had stumbled on a pile of chintamani. Calling their neighbors, they admonished one another, "Obtain the reward of your eyes this very moment." Some were enraptured to see Ram and went with him, gazing on him all the time. Others took his image into the heart through the door of their eyes and were utterly overpowered in body, mind, and speech. Seeing the cool shade of a banyan tree, some spread soft grass and leaves under it and said, "Pray rest a while, and you may then depart either just now or preferably next morning." Others brought a pitcher full of water and said in soft accents, "My lord, rinse your mouth." Hearing their agreeable words and seeing their extreme love, the tender-hearted and most amiable Sri Ram mentally perceived that Sita was fatigued and rested a while in the shade of the banyan tree. Men and women regarded his loveliness with great delight. His peerless beauty captivated their eyes and mind. Standing in a circle with their gaze fixed on the countenance of Sri Ramchandra, they all shone like a group of chakor birds encircling the moon. With his graceful form possessing the hue of a young tamal tree, he fascinated by his looks the mind of a million cupids. Lakshman too, who had fair limbs bright as lightning and charming from head to foot, appeared most lovely and attracted the mind. With the bark of trees wrapped round their loins and a quiver fastened to their waist, the two brothers carried a bow and arrow in their lotus hands. Their matted locks were coiled on their head in the shape of a beautiful crown, and they had a broad chest, long arms, and big eyes, while their lovely faces, which resembled the autumnal full moon, glistened with beads of sweat. The pair was charming beyond words. Their loveliness was unbounded, and my wits are too poor, says Tulsidas. Everyone gazed on the beauty of Sri Ram, Lakshman, and Sita with their mind, intellect, and reason fully absorbed. Thirsting for love, the villagers, both men and women, stood motionless, even as ducks and doves are dazed by light. The village women approached Sita. In their extreme love, they would put questions to her, but hesitated to do so. Again and again, they threw themselves at her feet and addressed to her soft and guileless words, which came straight from their heart. "Princess, we have a request to make to you, but due to our womanly modesty, we are afraid to ask you. Forgive our incivility, madam, and be not offended, knowing that we are after all rustic women. Both these princes are naturally graceful in form. It is from them that emerald and gold have borrowed their green and yellow luster, respectively. The one dark and the other fair, but both of tender age, which is so attractive, handsome, and all beauteous. They have faces resembling the autumnal moon and eyes like the autumnal lotus." Putting to shame by their comeliness, millions of cupids tell us, "O fair lady, how stand they to you?" Hearing their loving and sweet words, Sita felt abashed and smiled within herself. Looking at them in the first instance, she then cast her eyes towards the earth. The fair complexioned lady felt a twofold delicacy. With a voice sweet as the notes of a cuckoo, the fawn-eyed princess bashfully replied in loving and sweet accents, "The one who is artless in manners and has a fair and graceful form is called Lakshman, and is my younger brother-in-law." Again, wheeling her moon-like face with an end of her sari, she looked at her beloved lord, and then bending her eyebrows and casting a sidelong glance with her beautiful eyes that resembled the Kanjan bird, a species of wagtail, in their quick movements, she indicated to them by signs that he was her husband. All the village women were as delighted as paupers that had been allowed free access to hoards of riches. Falling at Sita's feet in their great love, they invoked upon her many a blessing and said, "May you ever enjoy a happy married life so long as the earth rests on the head of the serpent god Shesh. Be as dear to your lord as Parvati to Shiv, yet cease not to be kind to us, O good lady. Again and again we pray with joined palms, should you return by this very route, allow us to see you, remembering us as your handmaids." Sita found them all athirst with love and comforted them with many smoothing words, even as lilies are refreshed by moonlight. Presently, reading Sri Ram's mind, Lakshman gently asked the villagers about the road they should take. The moment they heard this, the villagers, both men and women, became sad. A thrill ran through their body and tears rushed to their eyes. Their joy disappeared and they felt depressed at heart, as though God was snatching back the treasure he had bestowed upon them. Reflecting on the ways of fate, they took courage and fixing upon the easiest road, they gave it out to him. Accompanied by Lakshman and Janak's daughter, the Lord of Raghus then proceeded on his way. As people tried to follow him, he sent back all with soothing words, though he took their hearts with him. While returning to their homes, the villagers, men and women alike, grievously lamented and blamed Providence in their heart. In doleful accents, they said to one another, "The Creator's doings are all perverse. He is absolutely uncontrollable, heartless, and remorseless. It is He who made the moon sickly, subject to periodical waning, and disfigured it with a dark patch. Again, it is He who made the wish-yielding tree a member of the vegetable kingdom and the ocean salt. It is the same Creator who has sent these princes into the woods. If He has chosen the forest as a fit abode for them, in vain has He provided luxuries and enjoyments. If they traverse the road barefooted, in vain has He created vehicles of various kinds. If they repose on the ground littered with grass and leaves, why does God take the trouble of making lovely beds? If God has assigned them an abode in the shade of umbrageous trees, in vain has He taken pains to erect milk-white palaces. If these handsome and most delicate boys are attired in the robes of hermits and wear matted locks of hair, in vain has God created ornaments and costumes of various kinds. If they live on bulbs, roots, and fruits alone, foods such as ambrosia exist in vain. Some people remark, naturally charming as they are, these princes must have appeared on earth of their own accord and were not made by Brahma. In all the 14 spheres, ransack, if you will, the entire range of God's creation described at length in the Vedas as perceptible by the ears, eyes, and mind. But where can you find such a man and such a woman as these? At their very side, Brahma's mind got enamored of them and he proceeded to make their match. He toiled much, but none of his products could even approach the prototype, and due to that jealousy, he has brought these princes to the woods and hid them. Others said, "We do not claim to know much, but account ourselves supremely blessed. They too are meritorious in our opinion who see these princes or have seen them or shall see them." Making such fond remarks, they filled their eyes with tears and added, "Most delicate of frame, how shall they be able to traverse such an impossible road?" Overmastered by love, the women felt as uneasy as the female chakravak bird does at evening time. Reflecting on the tender lotus feet of the princes and the rough road they were required to tread, the women said in polite phrase with their hearts stirred with deep feeling, "At the touch of their soft and rosy souls, the earth shrinks even as our hearts. If the Lord of the universe chose to exile them into the woods, why did He not at the same time strew their path with flowers? If we can secure from heaven the boon of our asking, let us keep these princes, O friend, within the lids of our eyes." Those men and women who did not come in time were unable to behold Sita and Ram. Hearing of their exquisite beauty, they anxiously asked, "How far, brother, must have gone by now?" The stronger of them ran on and saw the princes and returned triumphant, attaining the end of their existence. Women, children, and the aged, however, wrung their hands and lamented. In this way, the people were smitten with love wherever Sri Ram went. In every village there was similar rejoicing at the sight of Sri Ram, who was a moon to the lily-like solar race. Those who could get some information as to the circumstances that had led to Sri Ram's banishment blamed the king and queen. Others said, "The king is too benevolent in that he has vouchsafed to us the reward of our eyes." Men and women talked among themselves in straight, loving, and agreeable phrases. "Blessed are the parents who gave birth to these princes, and happy the town from which they hail. Happy is the land, hill, forest, village, and every spot which they visit. Nay, the Creator must have felt happy in creating him who looks upon these princes as his near and dear ones." The delightful story as to how Sri Ram and Lakshman travelled in the woods was broadcast all along the route and throughout the forest, thus bringing joy to the people on the roadside. Sri Ram, who was a veritable sun to the lotus-like solar race, proceeded with Sita and Sumitra's son Lakshman, looking at the forest. Sri Ram walked in the front while Lakshman followed in the rear, both conspicuous in the robes of ascetics. Between the two, Sita shone like Maya, the divine energy that stands between Brahma, God, on the one hand, and the individual soul on the other. To illustrate her beauty as it exists in my mind in another way, she looked like Rati, the wife of the god of love, shining between Madhu, the spirit presiding over the vernal season, and the god of love. Beating my brains for another illustration, let me say she shone like Rohini between Budh and the moon god. Sita trod on the path with meticulous care, planting her feet in the space between her lord's footprints. Avoiding the footprints of both Sita and Ram, Lakshman traversed the road, always keeping them to his right. The ideal affection of Sri Ram, Lakshman, and Sita was past telling. How can one describe it? Even birds and beasts were enraptured to behold their beauty. Their hearts were stolen by Ram, the wayfarer. Whoever saw the beloved travelers, Sita and the two brothers Ram and Lakshman, joyously reached the end of the toilsome journey of life without any exertion. Nay, to this very day, anyone in whose heart the wayfarers Lakshman, Sita, and Ram should ever lodge, even in a dream, shall find the road leading to Sri Ram's abode, the divine region known by the name of Saket, the road that scarce any anchorite may find. Then, perceiving that Sita was tired and seeing a banyan tree and cool water hard by, the hero of Raghu's line partook of pulps, roots, and fruits, and staying there overnight and bathing at dawn, the Lord of Raghu's proceeded further. And beholding lovely woods, lakes, and hills, the Lord reached the hermitage of Valmiki. Sri Ram saw the sage's beautiful dwelling with his charming hills and forest and its sacred waters. The lotuses in the ponds and the trees in the woods were in blossom, intoxicated with their honey. Bees sweetly hummed over them. Birds and beasts made a tumultuous noise and moved about in joy, free from all animosities. The lotus-eyed Ram rejoiced to behold the sacred and lovely hermitage, and hearing of the arrival of Sri Ram, the chief of Raghu's line, the sage came forth to receive him. Sri Ram fell prostrate before the sage, and the holy Brahman blessed him in return. The sight of Sri Ram's beauty gladdened his eyes, and with due honor he took the Lord into the hermitage. Finding a guest as dear to him as life itself, the holy sage sent for delicious bulbs, roots, and fruits. Sita, Lakshmana, and Ram partook of those fruits, and the sage then assigned them beautiful quarters. Great was the joy of Valmiki's heart as he beheld with his own eyes Sri Ram, who was blissful and personified. Joining his lotus palms, the Lord of Raghus then spoke to him in words which were delightful to the ears. You directly perceive everything relating to the past, present, and future, O Lord of sages. The whole universe is as if buried in the palm of your hand. Saying so, the Lord related to him the whole story as to how the queen Kathā had exiled him into the woods. Compliance with my father's commands, gratification of my stepmother Kathā, the installation of a brother like Bharat to the throne, and my seeing you, all this, my lord, is the result of my meritorious acts. In beholding your feet, O king of sages, all my good deeds have been rewarded. Now I intend to go wherever you command me to go, and where no anchorite may feel disturbed. For such monarchs as prove a source of annoyance to hermits and ascetics are consumed without fire, while the satisfaction of Brahmans is the root of happiness, their wrath consumes millions of generations. Bearing this in mind, pray tell me a place to which I may proceed with Sita and Lakshman, Sumitra's son, and building a charming hut of leaves and grass may spend some time there, O good sir. Hearing these guileless and unsophisticated words of Sri Ram, the enlightened sage exclaimed, Quite so, right you are. Why should you not speak thus, O glory of Raghu's line, ever busy as you are in maintaining the laws laid down by the Veds? While you are the custodian of the Vedic laws and the Lord of the universe, Sita, Janak's daughter, is your Maya, divine energy, who creates, preserves, and dissolves the universe on receiving the tacit approval of your gracious self. As for Lakshman, he is no other than the thousand-headed Shesh, the Lord of serpents, the supporter of the globe and the Lord of the entire creation, both animate and inanimate. Having assumed the form of a king for the sake of the gods, you are out to crush the host of wicked demons. Your being, O Ram, is beyond the range of speech and beyond conception, unknown, unutterable, and infinite. The Veds ever speak of it as not that, not that. Jai Shri Ram Chandra Ki Jai.